Okay, so imagine this. You're a serious astronomer, and one day the US Air Force comes knocking. They want to hire you to help with their quote-unquote flying saucer problem. But here's the catch. Your job isn't to find aliens, it's to make all these crazy reports just go away. Well, that was the bizarre reality for Dr. J. Allen Hynek, and his story, his journey from the ultimate UFO skeptic to a scientist demanding we take this seriously, is absolutely fascinating.
And yeah, that quote from Hynek himself really says it all, doesn't it? He was brought in as the technical consultant. Notice how he emphasizes as an astronomer. He was the scientific seal of approval, the guy whose job it was to look at this growing mountain of strange reports and find a perfectly normal astronomical reason for every single one. He was basically the debunker in chief.
So let's start at the beginning with Hynek's initial role. You've got this respected astronomer working for the military. His starting point on this whole explosive topic was pure professional skepticism, as it should be.
And his job, you gotta understand, was super specific. The Air Force wasn't looking for a cosmic mystery, not at all. They wanted a scientific cleanup man. He was there to take these messy, weird reports from people and neatly file them away under familiar labels. Oh, that was a meteor, that was just a star twinkling, you saw the planet Venus. And you know what? For a long time, he was really good at it. This case right here from 1948 is a perfect example of how he operated. A weather observer in Panama sees this strange spherical thing with a tail, says it's bigger than Venus, and watches it for 40 whole minutes. Sounds pretty wild, right? Well, Hynek gets the report, he pulls out his star charts, he crunches the numbers, and voila! He concludes it was, without a doubt, the planet Venus. The position, the color, the time it set, it all matched up perfectly. Case closed. This was Hynek in his element. But as he kept doing this work through Project Sign, then Project Grudge, and finally the famous Project Blue Book, he started to notice some cracks in the system. He began to realize the official goal wasn't really a thorough investigation at all. The whole project was kind of built on a foundation of dismissal.
And this gets to the absolute heart of the problem. Hynek figured out that there was this unofficial rule, a kind of unspoken theorem that was guiding the whole investigation. It was this crazy circular logic. Science says this is impossible, so it can't be real. And because it's not real, any report we get must be a mistake. You see the problem? That isn't science. That's just dogma.
And you can see how this thinking just poisoned the well. A disk with blinking lights? The witness must be unreliable. An object caught on a tracking scope during a missile launch by a professional? Oh, that's just a star, even though stars don't move like that. Multiple trained observers on an Air Force base? Just meteors. The explanations became more and more of a stretch, designed to close a case, not to actually solve it.
So you see, the whole system was designed to fail from the start. Project Blue Book was always a low-priority gig, staffed by officers who were just passing through. And it got worse. In 1953, a panel basically decided the real threat wasn't UFOs, but public interest in UFOs. So the goal officially changed from investigation to PR, just play down the whole subject. It's no wonder Hynek said it earned the nickname, the Society for the Explanation of the Uninvestigated. But here's where it gets interesting. Even with this flawed system, some cases were just too strange, too well documented, and came from witnesses who were way too credible to just sweep under the rug. This is really the turning point for Hynek, where the sheer weight of the data started to crack the official dogma. So what do you do when you're a scientist and the data just doesn't fit the theory? Well, Hynek did exactly what a good scientist should do. He organized the data. He decided to put aside the question of what these things were for a moment, and instead focused entirely on what people were actually reporting. He was bringing scientific order to the chaos.
And what he came up with was actually brilliant in its simplicity, because it was all based on pure observation. First, you've got nocturnal lights. Not just any star, but lights in the night sky doing weird things. Then, daylight disks. Pretty self-explanatory, and a lot harder to explain away as a star. And finally, the category that would make him famous, close encounters.
And he didn't stop there. He drilled down even deeper into that close encounters category. A close encounter of the first kind, or CE1, is just seeing something up close. A CE2 is when there's physical evidence left behind, things like impressions on the ground or a car's engine stalling. And the CE3, the most mind-bending of all, is when a witness actually reports seeing occupants. For the first time, this framework gave researchers a real language to talk about these incredible events. So, as Hynek started applying this new system to the mountain of reports, something profound began to happen. A personal transformation. The evidence was just becoming too compelling to ignore, and the easy, official explanations just weren't cutting it anymore. And you don't have to take my word for it. Here's what Hynek himself had to say about it. The change was gradual, but it was complete. Now, he never became a believer in some kind of religious sense. No, he became something much more powerful. A scientist who realized the data was pointing to a real, unexplained phenomenon. The very man hired to make this all go away was now convinced it was one of the most important scientific questions of the time. But that begs the question, right? If the evidence was so interesting, why was he pretty much alone? Well, Hynek had a name for it, the committee complex. He discovered that tons of his scientific colleagues were secretly fascinated by this topic. They'd talk about it in private, but publicly, in front of their peers, no way. They were terrified of being ridiculed, of looking foolish, of risking their careers. And look, this wasn't just some gut feeling he had. The numbers actually backed him up. A survey of professional astronomers at the time was stunning. If you add it up, a whopping 64% were either interested enough to offer help or felt it was a serious problem that needed looking into. So in private, a clear majority of his peers agreed with him. The committee complex was very, very real. So, we're getting to the end of the official story. Project Blue Book gets shut down for good in 1969. But for Hynek, this is where the real work begins. He wasn't about to just walk away. He was about to start the most important part of his entire career. I mean, just stop and think about the sheer scale of this for a second. He started his own group, the Center for UFO Studies. And with his team, he went back and re-examined every single one of the Air Force's more than 13,000 cases. This time, they were applying real, unbiased scientific rigor, totally free from that old Air Force policy of just explaining things away. So what did they find after all that work, after throwing out everything that could possibly be a plane, a weather balloon, a star, or just a flat-out hoax? What was left? This number, 640. 640 cases remained stubbornly, persistently unidentified. This wasn't just a few weird stories. It was a significant pile of unexplained data. And if you dig into those 640 unknowns, something really interesting pops out. The biggest category, over 42%, wasn't blurry lights in the sky. It was daylight disks. These were structured objects seen in broad daylight, often by multiple, highly credible witnesses. These are the kinds of cases that are incredibly hard to just dismiss. And this is maybe the most important takeaway from Hynek's entire life's work. His goal was never to prove aliens. He always said that was a huge, unscientific leap. No, his goal was simpler and way more profound, to prove to the scientific establishment that there was a real signal in all the noise, that there was a genuine, unexamined phenomenon happening that demanded, that deserved serious investigation. And this final thought from him, man, it just captures what he felt the stakes were. He truly believed that if we could just study this thing, whatever it turns out to be, it could change everything. It could be a springboard to a total revolution in how we see ourselves and our tiny little place in this massive universe. It was a call to scientific adventure. So yeah, in the end, Hynek's journey leaves us with a powerful question that he himself posed, a question that still hangs in the air today after all these years. After seeing what he saw and knowing what he knew, we have to ask ourselves, what level of objective reality are we, all of us, choosing to ignore?